What is up, everyone? This is RawMatt. I decided to go live and test how this is going to do. Anyway, I sent out an invite to a couple people. We'll see if they join. It is 2 a.m. my time, so I don't see it happening. But we will see. In the meantime, let's talk about something different. Something that perhaps you even yourself might do. And that is consume oil in one shape or form of another. Whether it's frying your food or whether or not it's pouring olive oil on your salad. There's lots of controversy on this, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. All right, everyone, I'm back. Sorry, I was sending out some more invites. Everyone is pretty much going to bed or is in bed. So we're going to hit this off with whatever comes to my mind. And since I said earlier, I guess we will talk on some oil. We will do that. I know, very strange subject. Most people consider oils very, very healthy, and I'm here to ruin your day. All right. The first thing, coconut oil, a very popular oil and something that most people consider very healthy. Matter of fact, I don't even know if you can hear me right now. I just realized that because I have music playing in the background. So let me turn this down. Sorry about that. I don't even realize if you could hear me or not because there's no way for me to tell. And this is my first live stream on my channel, so forgive me. Anyway, as I was saying, oils are part of most people's diet. They pour them on salads, they dip their bread in olive oil or butter, they drizzle it on foods or add them to smoothies. It doesn't really matter. Oils are very popular and they're considered very healthy. I actually recommend people to only put them on your foods if necessary. Meaning, a salad would be horrible without some kind of a dressing. So unless you're making your own custom dressing without olive oil, I do not recommend it. Also, wait, why is this? Why am I talking about this? Well, the first reason is because oils get into your blood cells and muscle cells, and they travel around your body really well. But what they do is they hinder oxygen from getting into your heart. They slow it down. So if you have a weak heart, you are going to make it worse. You are going to cause heart disease. Another problem with oils is that they raise horrible amounts of homocysteine. They require it. So by that very fact alone, we have to methylate these oils out of our body. Now, oil is digested very differently than most other foods, meaning it goes through your lymphatic system. It doesn't get digested like protein or carbohydrates do. So remember that. You're going to be putting something into your body that your body naturally has an affinity not to break down very good. So, but yet we have to. So what are we going to do about it? Well, as we age, we methylate less and less and less. So therefore, homocysteine starts to build up, and vegetarians and vegans and people that eat very healthy end up getting the same heart disease as people that don't follow any kind of a good diet. And the reason that is because other diets usually lack certain elements that we require, usually zinc and folate and B12. And when those elements are low, homocysteine builds up because our body doesn't have the actual elemental components to help us build this methylation factor and remove the homocysteine that's now building up from all the oils that we're consuming. So oils are what's killing us. Matter of fact, if you think you get a lot of acne and you probably wonder where it's coming from, it's probably from cooked oils in your diet. And that can be, I would say, mitigated pretty good. It's mostly eating out that does it. For instance, every time you have a French fry, boom, that's a potato that's been fried in oil. So therefore, you're getting oil in your diet from that. It's things we don't think about. So let's consider that for a little while. And I'm not saying to get rid of all oils. That's not necessary. And not all oils are considered equal either. Of course, frying them makes them much worse. I'm just saying the unhealthier you are and the older we get, the more we should remove oil from the diet. Stick to natural fats in foods. It's an entirely different digestive process that the fat goes through, that oil does not. Oil goes in instantly, gets quickly absorbed. Natural fats, like from eating a walnut or an almond, does not. They're completely different compounds. So, dwell on that. I will play some music and I will send some more invites out. All right, everybody, I'm back. And I thought I would mention that this coming weekend, I will be going live with Pastor Anderson and Matt Powell, and we are going to be talking about young earth creation. And since that seems to be my forte nowadays, we are going to be basically covering the broad spectrum of it. What is it? What is our model? I'm probably going to be sitting there and answering their questions. They're making a new movie, and I am going to be bombarded with questions that the general public probably has towards our model. They are always coming at us with the pretty much similar topics from what I can tell. Where did the water go that was from Noah's flood? Did man live with dinosaurs? Did Noah take them on the ark? What did Adam look like? What is, genetic entropy? Like, pretty much the same questions that we always get. I'm just going to try to answer them in a very unique way so that it seems different for their movie. I'm going to answer them in a really simplistic way, and I intend to give lots of allegorical interpretations. I'm going to give visual images in your mind so that you can retain what I'm saying even better. For example, Standing for Truth and I were talking to Kent Hovind recently, and we were sharing what ERVs were. So what I wanted to do was describe to him in a way that his audience listening to me could also understand. So I came at him with a different perspective. Oh, here's a question. How did kangaroos get to Australia? Yes, another very popular one. Yes, they got there the same way every other animal migrates. Matter of fact, you can go on Google right now and you can actually find that there were kangaroos in India. They have cave paintings they discovered with kangaroos. Now, of course, the secular source is going to say they just drew an animal out of their imagination because that's their best rescuing device. I would have personally said they were probably high on peyote and they were just making fun of something. But even that's a better explanation, I think, than their ridiculous example. So can we take a quick, honest poll on Kent? Is he for real or no? He sets off my radar a bit. Thermal. And then dinosaurs on the ark. Kent Hovind, I would imagine, well, as far as his young Earth creation or as far as him as a person, two totally different things. When I usually refer to somebody, I really don't care what type of person they are. I care about what they know. So his personal life is in shambles. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody that walks on this earth that has more drama than that man following him. I mean, it is crazy. It looks like he's done some shady things, for sure. But he also spent 10 years in prison. So whatever he did, he definitely did his time. That's a long time to spend in prison, a really long time. I mean, his own kids don't even talk to him anymore. So he lost his family, lost his kids, lost everything that he owned. So that's pretty much, if he had karma coming to him, he got it. That's for sure. As dinosaurs on the ark. Yeah, you've never heard that question, Daniel? You've never heard people ask, were there dinosaurs on the ark? Matter of fact, here's a question for you. Do you guys know how many dinosaur kinds there are? I don't even know if anybody's there anymore. So I guess I'll just answer that for those listening. It's 55. That's how many kinds of total dinosaurs there were. Yes, of course, there were tons of different species, but 55 different kinds. So they could have easily brought them on the ark. Whether or not that happened, I don't really know, because there are stories of dinosaurs after the flood. So that kind of makes me wonder if they did bring a few. But remember, dinosaurs were highly adapted to living in an environment that was extremely, like, double the percentage of oxygen saturation. And insects are very, very adaptable. And they're able to survive in oxygen very, very quickly because they breathe through their skin. As where dinosaurs, as you can see, some of them got very distorted and have really long necks. they wouldn't do so good. As a matter of fact, even every so often, they think they find a dinosaur. It's usually a aquatic type like Nessie or the Loch Ness monster, something that lives in the water. I could see that being much more reasonable than finding a Tyrannosaurus Rex walking around. I would imagine that the majority have died. Matter of fact, the most amazing story of all was probably it's a controversial one, but I talk about it. Matter of fact, I'll give it to you guys right now. Hold on. Of course, I closed it. Hold on. It's particular about a pterodactyl, and it was shot down during the Civil War. And what happened is a picture of it that circulates today is a forgery, and it's a fake. And the reason they made it is to discredit the real one. Now, I'll tell you the story, but I want to give everybody a link so that they can follow along, and I'll do that right now. It's in my dinosaur documents, and there it is. Sorry, everybody. Multitasking. All right. I think I got it. Here you guys go. All right. Now, if you scroll down just a little bit, you can see some original photos of Civil War pictures and what they really look like. Then you can scroll down a little bit more, and you can see the actual photo, the very top one, of what's called the Seppi shot. And what this is this is a pterodactyl that was shot down during the Civil War, and they stood around it and they took a photo. And what happened is this photo was sent in to Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, and they put it in a book that was published in 1968. And then it was, time went on and we forgot about it. Well, luckily somebody got their hands on that book in particular, and they uploaded it to the internet. And when the original photo went out, it was extremely controversial, but they wanted to discredit this photo. Why? I really don't know. I mean, it's the internet, so they could have easily just said, well, whatever. So what happened is they created a replica, an identical one. So by doing that, they made a feeble attempt. You can see it. It's a yellow shot, really musky. You can't actually see what they're standing on. You can't make out any of their faces, and it's real blurry. It's worse than any photograph that you can actually see in that era. Now, Nephilim Free, he is interesting because I guess he works with photographs. So I want to talk with him about this topic because it's really interesting to me. And if you scroll down even further, you can actually see, matter of fact, I might be able to screen share for everybody watching. I just thought about that. Hold on one second. Yes, that works. All right, let me enlarge this for everybody. And all right, in this top area right here, this is the original, or the fake photo that they have. You can see it up here. This is their faces, and I took a screenshot and I zoomed in. And the reason I did that is so you can see his hat. It looks like a cowboy hat, and the guys behind him, the same thing. But if you go to the original photo, you notice that they're wearing actual Civil War hats. So what I did is I zoomed in on people that actually wear, these are actual war photos as well from people wearing real hats. Now, which one looks like it's the original photo? Obviously the one that's more clear, the top one. So that was my first clue. Okay, this fake one down here doesn't really seem to match. And then we get more in detail and we talk about like the straps on how they go side to side, what their canteens look like, what the weapons they're holding are actually using. And look at the size of this thing. Massive, huge. I mean, there's nothing flying in our skies even remotely close to this. The California condor is our closest bird, but it doesn't have a head nor a beak that looks like that. So they're like giant back wings. Yeah, they're almost like a mammal wing, right? They don't have feathers like birds, and they don't have like like flying fish. You know how theirs is like a scaly, and yeah, they're very unique. That isn't the picture. Maybe you saw this one. Maybe this one is the one. This is the one that circulates online now. This is the familiar one for most people. This is the fake. They also put a. They also did another photo. These groups of people right here, and they stood around a fake dinosaur. That's down here, and yeah, I have a lot. Here's their other fake one right here. You can see the fake dinosaur that they got a shot with as well. So that's interesting. And here's the guys that actually perpetrated the forgery. And I've got all the information on them. And a matter of fact, what they did is they were able to make their forgery get top hits when you type it in. This was what would search up. Their photo would come out on the top, and you couldn't actually find anything about the original photo. So they got rid of it entirely. I got lucky enough and grabbed it before it's completely gone. And this is it right here. So you guys can share that around, and that's a pretty cool one. And yeah, Daniel, you know who else is as well, is a huge fan, is Donnie Dino, the guy that kind of joined our team a while ago. He makes videos almost weekly, sometimes a little bit more. He's a huge fan, and he travels around. He makes a lot of young Earth creation videos, and he makes dinosaur videos. Right now, we're doing a dinosaur trilogy with him, and I think it's going to be more than a trilogy because I think he has like 27 or 30 videos, and I'm linking 3 of them together at a time and keeping them about 1 hour. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Oh, here's another one. Here's another image of a pterodactyl that was shot down. Look at the tail. Crazy, crazy. So if we ever lived with dinosaurs, this would be pretty good proof. I wish that somebody taxidermied them. You know, that would have been awesome. That would solve everybody's problem. But you know, if they were flying around before, well, there's potential to find them again. They just wouldn't get fossilized. That's the only problem. You need fossils to last any substantial amount of time. And when you just throw bones on the ground, they're gone. They're just gone. So I have all kinds of stories in this. This particular document is about 100 pages, and it just goes through all types of stories. And oh, here's a good shot. Look at that one. Look at that quality. Man, I'm actually going to put that on the top. That's good. Anyway, getting sidetracked. I usually have somebody with me, and oh man, nobody joined my feed. That's crazy. All right. Let me check my phone real quick. Yep, nobody. All right. No big deal. I was just actually testing this out to begin with. I was fascinated to see who would join me at 2 a.m. And it looks like a couple of you guys are still up. Or waking up. I don't know what time zone everybody's in. So, fascinating. Upright anyway. Here's I make these documents for everybody so that they can have a resource. Let's say somebody comes along and says, I want you to prove that dinosaurs lived recently. So you can go to something like this and you can type in, let's say, 10,000 years. Now, I know that exists because I put it in the book. So this is a great section right here because it talks about how carbon-14 shouldn't be in dinosaur bones. And I post a link to dinosaur bones that all have carbon in them. That should be impossible. Every atom of carbon should be out of dinosaur fossils. They might claim contamination, but that's the problem as well because it's inside the bone. It's not on the outside surface. Another one is the half-life of DNA. You can also find that the upper limit for DNA from Egyptian mummies right here is actually 10,000 years. So to find any DNA in dinosaurs is completely impossible if the upper limit is only 10,000 years. The only way it's possible is if dinosaurs are young. Another one would be methionine. The oxidation process is extremely quick. So these are real quick. Oh yeah, racemization. Basically, left-handed amino acids racemize back to a 50-50 mixture after a certain amount of time, about 100,000 years to 1 million years maximum. Yet we find dinosaur blood that has not gone back to a 50-50 mixture, which it obviously should have over 65 million years. Anyway, the evidence is definitely on our side when it comes to dinosaurs. So don't let anybody tell you like, oh, you guys are young earth creationists. You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to dinosaurs and the evidence. And iron can preserve these the blood cells, and that's why they exist. It's just, that's all debunked in this. If you ever need anything, we can go over that sometime. I update this one constantly. This is probably one of my favorite ones. Yeah, ginger mummies by red hair. Yeah, red hair is actually a recessive trait. So red hair should not be something we're finding all the time, but yet we're constantly finding red-haired giants, red-haired mummies, and that should not really be the case. They should be extremely rare. Here's another thing I thought of as well, something that might be a kind of a fun search. I've never heard of any mummy that's been wrapped up that has gray hair. That's kind of odd. I might actually search that in mummy gray hair. Why not, right? Mummification. Yeah, see, this person has colored hair. That's useless. It's not gray hair. All right, not a lot of searches. So let me read the chat real quick. I don't think it was normal. Yeah, Irish actually go up to about 25% of their population have red hair. They're the highest on Earth. And that's pretty impressive for a recessive trait, but they associate it being the negative Rh blood type, which they're the highest in. So that's probably why. They carry a blood antigen that makes them probably be more prone to having an allele at that gene frequency that causes red hair to be more dominant and just kind of take over, right? So if you have one parent with red hair and one parent with brown hair, well, the red hair is recessive and it's not really going to take. Like if you had 3 kids, one of them might have red hair. So it's obviously going to get weeded out of the population pretty quick. So the fact that the Irish have such a high population of red hair is amazing. So yeah, they died of tooth decay at 40. Yeah, but how about some of the kings and well, that's the thing about the general public probably did. There's no doubt, but the pharaohs, a lot of them lived a really long time. And I mean, look at some of these giant skulls. Skulls. All right. Again. Nothing. There we go. There's some good red hair. That's the same one. More red hair. Now I'm looking for anything with any other color hair, to believe it or not. I mean, here's one with brown hair. No, even that looks red. Yeah, it's very odd, isn't it? Not only are the skulls themselves extremely bizarre, but the fact that they have hair. Look, there's another red hair. That is bizarre. I was wondering what the connection would be biblically between Caucasians in early Egypt and how did Egyptians get plants from the Americas? Well, remember, right, Egypt was one of the first places that was founded after the flood because migration wouldn't have taken very long to get there at all. And seed dispersal was everywhere from the flood itself, and Egypt was a beautiful, lush land that was probably like America. So as it turned over and became a desert, a lot of those plants probably died. And Caucasians in Egypt, they were definitely there. I mean, look at King, let's see, Egyptian King Yu, I think his name was. I must be wrong. I don't know. There's Ya, that's it. Okay, look at this guy. Okay, well, wonderful. Not a colored photo. Isn't that great? So he was actually blonde. There we go. Now, the odds of an Egyptian ruler having blonde hair is very odd and unique in itself, and being Caucasian. There's also King Akhenaten. Looked very crazy. Very, very strange features. Pot belly, strange looking head, narrow shoulders. Don't really know what hair he had. Most of the time, Egyptians had a tendency to shave their hair off, and then they would wear wigs. But let's see. I think they're all over the world. The secular fairy tale is wrong. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Made a video just recently. I put it on Standing for Truth's channel and my own channel that showed the migration of the Native Americans as well from the east. And yeah, the Phoenicians sailed the world. Yeah, we're explorers. Humans love to explore. We travel all over the place. It seems like those that traveled the least were probably Africans, which is funny because that's where secular science says that we're from, and yet Africans migrate the least out of all people. So that's ironic, right? That everybody else decides to travel, but not them, right? And just kind of bizarre. But yeah, these mummies are crazy. Oh, that might be. Oh wait, I can see some red. I thought I found another one. Yeah, look at that. They believe this guy was Joseph from the Bible. I have no idea who that is, but it's amazing nonetheless. Not too many things were mummified, right? That's a hard process. So if you're going to mummify somebody, they were either important or you knew exactly what you were doing. And you were going to waste a lot of your time in a harsh world mummifying somebody. And yeah, Egyptian is fascinating. Fascinating stuff. They don't do many archaeological digs in Egypt, meaning they look for artifacts. They're looking for Egyptian history. They're not looking for dinosaurs, really. If you look up how many archaeological digs are done for dinosaurs, it's so few, it's ridiculous. You can count them on one hand. I put them in my flood book, and that probably explains why not a lot is found there, because they don't look. I mean, really, digging in sand, you know how extremely hard that is? You dig a little bit and it just backfills itself up. It would be hard. You would need to get all kinds of machines out there and get down below all that sand. And the Sahara Desert is one of the oldest deserts in the world. So there's places where it's very deep and nobody's going to spend nobody's going to take their grant money and spend it all on digging, looking for a dinosaur, when you can just go to Montana and grab dinosaurs very easily. I missed the last point of blonde hair. What was the point for mummies having blonde hair again? Actually, that's the real question. We don't really know why some of them had blonde hair, because Egyptians don't have blonde hair. There is no reason for an Egyptian pharaoh to really ever have blonde hair, unless that was such a unique feature that they thought it was amazing and they gave the person. But that wouldn't really follow along the lines of what they really did. If you think about it, a king would let his son and his heir take his position. So he would have inherited the genetics of his father, and therefore the entire lineage would look the same. Or it depends on the civilization. Sometimes a war would break out and the ruler would take over. That would make sense too. But we don't really see that in the Egyptian chronicles, what was going on why there would be a ruler with blonde hair. I guess it wasn't an important subject. But if you look up blonde hair, blue eyes, Egypt. You get some weird, like, look at the, it's just, they all match somebody in history. And I don't know if that was just something that like Hitler enjoyed, like, oh, they're the best, they're they're the supreme race of people. So if we see one, they're going to be king. I don't really see that happening, but it makes sense in the biblical model, because in the secular model, Egypt existed for a very, very long time, and Egypt was the crown uh, kingdom that ruled over everybody, and they had slaves constantly working, building pyramids for themselves. And they did this because they knew that they had an unending amount of supplies of slaves, and the Egyptians were the kings. So why they had Hebrews as slaves, for example, and they had multiple slaves from all around them. So to just give somebody the title of Pharaoh because they had blonde hair, blue eyes, doesn't really make much sense. But yet when we find these mummies, Egyptian mummies that all have blonde hair, we presume they have blue eyes. We don't really know. They're all closed and they were dug out because they're soft tissue. It's just, it raises an eyebrow. It's pretty confusing. But at least in the biblical model, it makes a lot more sense than the secular model. But definitely something more to look into. Love it. There's so much history that's been lost, and we just fill in the gaps. And it's so confusing to people because there's so much that doesn't make sense that they just invoke aliens. I mean, people would rather believe in aliens today than the secular nonsense they've been indoctrinated with. And I find that ironic and pretty funny as well. Hieroglyphs that record every skin color of humanity. It was a city. Yeah, I could see that. A huge city. I mean, have you guys ever actually seen the Egyptian Book of the Dead? It's one of their first religious books, and it has every color of every person that's in it. It was crazy. I went through every page because I was looking for a something called white manna, and I guess you could just say something like this. I was looking in the record for something that caused eternal life, and what it is Ormus gold. Ormus stands for orbitally rearranged monoatomic elements, and it only exists in a few sources on Earth. For example, you can find 2 of the elements in aloe vera and 1 of them in grapeseed. And what they did is they extracted them and ground them into a powder, kind of like a golden dust. And they believed that it was an eternal substance, something that can make you live forever. And obviously extremely hard to extract and find. But I read through the research on the Egyptian Book of the Dead looking for the substance because they mentioned it in Ancient Aliens. And I read through every page of that book twice, and I could not find anything on it. So I don't know where they came up with that. I don't actually think it's true. So let's see what's going on in chat real quick. So much history lost or stolen. Yeah, for sure. Lots. We this idea that culture is never mixed because we are brainwashed. That's so true. Yeah, they think we don't mix as a people group. That's so crazy to even think, because anybody today can spit in a cup and send it in at 23andMe. And because it's mitochondria based mostly, what they do is they can only track back maybe 3 or 4 generations, and then it starts getting really lost. And once it's lost, you kind of lose your history, and there's no way to determine who you're related to after that point. So pretty much, if your family kept a good history log of who you're related to, you'll learn about as much as 23andMe can ever give you on history, or history ancestry.com. But at least you'll get to learn some of your own genetic weaknesses. For example, one of my friends had a weak heart because he found that he had a genetic mutation that allowed for a weaker heart. And I myself, I had deep vein thrombosis, which means that I can clog and bleed internally very quickly. I guess a cousin of mine that I didn't know, he fell asleep on the couch and his leg had pinched that nerve, and he had deep vein thrombosis, and he didn't wake up. He actually died from it. Imagine falling asleep on the couch and dying from that. How ridiculous, right? Anyway, so genetic tests are pretty unique and pretty cool in that regard. And it also tells you what genes you have activated and which ones you don't. For example, we have 7 sirtuins, and some of them might be activated, some of them may not. You might find out if you're lactose intolerant or not. Matter of fact, most of you already probably know that because if you eat a piece of cheesecake, you'll be either getting sick or run to the bathroom. And what I liked is that I was able to read through the longevity genes. For example, I had one of the FOXO genes. I had one of the, heterozygous, a positive dominant alleles there. So that was really good. And then I had a recessive one on the other side that didn't add any life. So I had, positive and negative, right? So it's pretty neat when you can go through and read about on your own genetics. And it's unfortunately pretty expensive, but every year, if you guys are ever going to do it, 23andme.com, it drops to the price of $99. And then it shoots back up to $150 or $200, but just wait. And it always goes back down to that $99 and just pick it up at that rate. If you don't care about it, then obviously it's not worth your time. Don't worry about it. But I was always fascinated to see what genes I had activated and which ones I don't, and what negative genetic inherited things I might have, because I don't know my history very well and I don't know who I'm related to very well. So it's always good. Anyway, back to the chat. I am part native and lactose intolerant, so that fits. Oh, native. Nice. Yeah, no doubt Egyptians scribed on everything, but nothing about how they built the pyramids. Convenient, huh? Yeah, they decided to write down everything about their daily life, about what their cat looked like and what their underwear were made out of. But those pyramids, yeah, that wasn't important. I heard everything from Enoch to aliens. That must have been an earlier question. And yeah. Well, guys, I guess it's coming up to 3 a.m. This was more of a test. I released a video on Standing for Truth channel. It's only 2 minutes long, though, so you guys can get that over with quick. It was from his debate that he had with Erica. I noticed that Erica brought up the heat problem, but she didn't actually know or have an answer for it herself. So he gave her an answer, and I just thought I'd make it more visually appealing and also help out Nephilim Free, because Neph was Neph was in a debate with Erica today, and she brought up the heat problem, and it actually shouldn't be a heat problem at all, because there's multiple examples and explanations to explain away the heat problem. There's no possible way that there's a heat problem. And the next question, do you think Ormus Gold could reverse genetic mutations and turn on dormant genes? I think they mentioned something like Ormus Gold in ancient Chinese medicine for immortality. Could be, David. Okay, elements themselves. Come on, Jason, you're on mute, by the way. You can join in any time.
Yeah, I know. I was just listening because I was thinking of getting my laptop down, but if you're going to close up soon, then I won't. I'll fire it up anyway. Doesn't matter. It's not like it's a big drama or anything.
Yeah, no big deal. I'm just kind of chit-chatting with people.
Okay.
Yeah, the Ormus Gold. Okay, so let's just take, for example, that this Ormus Gold is something that you can get your hands on today. And the Ormus is fascinating because it is 3 elements that are really, really hard to find. Now, minerals are what our body is made out of. So if we're really low on an element, we found that most people are very low in an element called indium. Now, indium is a very rare, very exotic element that only exists in a very thin layer around the entire Earth. Secular science believes that it came from a meteor. And it doesn't really matter where it came from because it's not in people's diet. So what they did is they wanted to figure out what this did inside of human beings. So they synthesized it and broke it down and make it into a sublingual drop you can take and drip onto your tongue. And they gave it to mice for about a month. And what happened is their entire endocrine system rehabilitated and mineral absorption increased by 333%. So that's amazing. So, for example, their adrenal glands, their pituitary gland, their pineal gland, all of them regenerated. And more importantly, their parathyroid gland. Now, your parathyroid gland is really important because as we get older, I need indium. I'm meteor deficient. I like it. The indium itself, the parathyroid gland is what regulates how much calcium should be in your blood. And when that gland, when the parathyroid gland doesn't regulate anymore, or it starts to break down, you get calcium in the blood. And this is a horrible problem. We do not want that. Matter of fact, if that happens to you and a doctor finds that there's more than some calcium in your blood, because they test it, if it's there, they put you on a calcium channel blocker because it's extremely dangerous. You can die. So you definitely need these adrenal glands and pituitary glands and thyroid gland. You need all these glands to be working, and indium rehabilitates them. So if Ormus does anything like that at all, then it's obviously very important. And here's the only thing that's very strange. Would it activate genes? We don't really know yet. That's more up for grabs, but it wouldn't surprise me because there are things that do activate our genes. For example, magnesium activates tons of genes. I think like 330. Zinc activates genes. There's certain elements that activate particular genes, like it isolates them directly. So minerals have a tendency to activate a lot of genes. And if magnesium alone can activate hundreds of them, well, Ormus, which is multiple rare elements, definitely could activate a lot of genes. So, all right. Is that a supplement I recommend? Oh, yeah, I take it. Hold on, I'll read you the brand that I take right here. I keep it next to my desk because I just take it when I get up. I don't take it every day. It's called Indium Ease. I'll put it right here. So yeah, I've taken it for a long time, and I like it. I mean, I don't see any problem with it. I don't feel anything from it though either. You know, it's not something that I tell people, yeah, you need this in your diet or else you're going to be dead. No. The reason I started taking it is because I am an extreme caloric restrictor. And I sometimes won't even eat except for once a day. So if
that's caloric restriction, all right.
Yeah. So
if you keep your calories down to 1,400 calories a day, you can live like a third longer, right?
Exactly. And here's the trick. It's not about snacking. Okay. If you're going to snack just a little bit all day long, that doesn't actually work. They actually found what does work is actually eating larger meals, more separated, more out. So anyway, is there a supplement that you recommend? Oh yeah. I'll give you guys my favorite supplements. I'll post them down here so everyone can see. Yeah, I definitely recommend some supplements, but the reason I recommend them is for the longevity. I'm not recommending a supplement that's just like, oh, you need iron. Matter of fact, I would get everybody off of iron, or oh, you need magnesium because everybody's low on magnesium. It's kind of like, no, I'm just going to say to eat better. Supplements are supplemental. What I mean by that is, if you're going to find the right diet is like taking the radio and finding the right station. Once you find the right station, then you should be supplementing. Then you can take, the top wires and adjust them. That's like supplementation. Don't rely on supplementation for everything, but they are very, very good. And here are the ones I recommend. And let me jump into, before I post them, let me read real quick. Indium Ease, do you drink coffee? Oh, hell no. I get too much energy as it is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's 3 a.m. and I'm amped up. I've been taking indium since you mentioned it. Oh, in a podcast. Wow, somebody's been listening to me before. Wow, that's pretty cool. It's a game changer to health. I love it. That's great, man. That's really good. Yeah, and it's pretty cheap stuff, and it lasts a long time. So if you're going to buy indium, I don't think it actually recommends a dose. So if it's pure indium, you can take it, and you can, it's a 1 drop per 50 pounds of body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, it's 3 drops in the morning. Now, you cannot eat for 8 hours before you take this. So that means the best time to take it would be when you wake up, because you have to wait before you can even eat. And Daniel, what's its benefit? I said it earlier, but I'll say it again real quick. It increases mineral absorption by 300%, even more, and it rebalances your endocrine system. So if you have weak adrenals, which most people do, if you don't get very good sleep, it's really good for your pituitary and your pineal gland, which is good for growth. So it's pretty good for kids as well. And it works on your parathyroid gland, basically every organ in your body that's a gland. So That's what it's really good for. Your entire endocrine system. Look up what organs are part of that system, and you'll find your answer. And let's see. A chiropractor is all about, magnesium's so good because magnesium is a relaxer. So if you take a calcium supplement and then you take a magnesium supplement, you would want to take calcium in the morning and you would take magnesium at night. And the reason why is magnesium is very relaxing. Matter of fact, magnesium, Epsom salts. You ever seen your grandparents pour Epsom salts in a bathtub? That's because it's magnesium and it helps you relax. It makes your muscles less tense. So if you're real tense or you have an athletic sport to do or you need to recover from something, magnesium is what to do. Matter of fact, if you're about to have a heart attack, when you get into the emergency room or when you get put inside of the ambulance, they rub a cream all over your chest. And what that gel is a transdermal magnesium. They realize that your heart relies on magnesium so much that when it's short on magnesium, it doesn't pump very well. And that transdermal magnesium soaks in through your skin and gets into your heart and allows it to pump even better. So that's amazing. I don't usually eat till night. Yeah, that's like me too, Thermal. Just stepped away to say hello from Finland. Whoa, nice. Enjoying the listening, watching, debate, and discussions about creation versus evolution. Therefore, standing from two. Nice. So as you guys can tell, I've pretty much removed my channel from being a health channel and a workout channel, and it's basically Young Earth creation. And it's not really, I didn't intend for that. It just happened because my entire life is kind of immersed into that subject, and I really have no time for the other subjects. I literally make content all day long. Well, Jason knows. He's helping me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's
well, I was, but I haven't been doing much lately because I've been a bit ill, but I'm getting better. Not coronavirus either. No, it's just an anti-inflammatory sort of build up in my system, which is probably real, mate. I tell you what, that sulfasalazine, it is the. I mean, I've been more gravely ill than that before, but it's the only way I can describe it is I had nausea, extreme nausea in the tips of my fingertips and the tips of my toes. You know what I mean? Like it was every square inch of my body was nauseous. If that's the only way to describe it. It was the worst feeling, and I was just up all night, dry retching and vomiting, and it was just one night. No itching in the throat, no runny nose, no. So I've got no flu, no COVID-19, but it was just the worst feeling that you could ever. It's like I asked Redefine Living to pray for me, and he said he was going to a group, soon, and they'd get them to pray for me. And within the hour after asking him, I started to feel better. I started to stop the vomiting so much and started to heal quicker. But I don't know if that was just coincidence or was going to happen, or it was him praying for me. Who knows? But it was it was intense, and it was bloody. It was full on. It was the worst feeling.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Man. Well,
yeah, it's just like you'll never see something that makes you feel sick in every square inch of your body, like nauseous. It was just I was a walking ball of nausea. It was horrible. But it went away quick. I needed to do it because I had inflammation from ulcerative colitis, So if I didn't get the inflammation down, because I was running to the toilet like 30 times a day, and that's bad, man. Like when your bowel's the thickness of a McDonald's stick shake straw, and sort of that's what it felt like. Probably not that, but it was bad, and you have to pump that stuff into yourself to get that to get it to release and go back. It's a horrible bloody thing, but it's so now when I go back on it next time, I'll be going on a third the amount. There's no way I'm going on the same amount before, because unless you just drink water like a camel and you're passing tons of water through yourself to wash the stuff out, it builds up in your system, and that's what happened to me. I wasn't drinking enough water.
Gosh. Yeah. Horrible, man.
Yeah.
So, colitis is no joke. No joke. It sounds like somebody in the chat might even have a little bit of celiac disease. Look at that. Thermal said, when I cut out bread, bloating went away. Yeah, there's no doubt. What happens is grain, especially, all bread is grain, right? So wheat is a particle that is really inflammatory. It has a real small surface level, so it gets everywhere through your system. And what happens is it causes inflammation of the mucous membrane, and that causes that really big bloated feeling. Matter of fact, the perfect example of this is beer belly. When you drink beer, it's made out of wheat, and wheat causes inflammation, and your stomach distends from that. And it's a perfect example I used just a couple of days ago was that when you turn on the TV and you watch starving kids in Africa, and you notice that they have huge distended bellies. Why is that? They're not eating anything. There doesn't make any sense that they would have such a bloated stomach. The reason why is because we send them grain, and that's their staple food. So they don't eat all day long. And when they finally do get food, it causes celiac disease. So they're walking around with that distended belly because of that very reason. So that's what's going on. Wheat is not very good for a lot of people. Most people should actually cut it out as much as they can. They should replace it with anything else. I like wild rice or quinoa or any nuts and seeds. Any of them are going to be better than grain. I also said I was going to post some supplements that I really like. I just did that right there for people. Jason, if you ever want to talk about any of those, goji berry is really good for people. It's a berry that grows in the Himalayan mountains, and it's sesquiterpenes. So what that means is it's one of the only foods on earth that helps your body produce human growth hormone.
Oh,
so
wow.
Nothing really does that.
Goji berries for HGH.
Yeah.
See, but if I start taking that, this is the thing. If I like when I was taking nettle root capsules, I was taking them two twice a day for a couple of days, and I'd stop for a day, and then I'd take it for another day, and then I'd stop for 2 days, and then I'd take it for another couple of days or a few days and stop for a day. And what's that doing is it's boosting my testosterone levels up and down, and messing with my hormones and bringing them up and down, which is a really, 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 really bad thing to do for colitis. So if that goji berry boosts HGH, human growth hormone, then if I started taking it, it'd be something that I'd have to start take and then wean myself off, or just stop eating it slowly, a little bit less of it each time.
Dang.
Because otherwise it exacerbate the problems in my,
Wow.
Yeah.
You're doing good now though, right? Or
also alcohol. I started drinking it. I started drinking again, not like, massive amounts and whatever, but just enough where it was exacerbating it, because most alcohol is made out of what?
Grain.
Even the spirits and everything, grain. So,
right.
Yeah. So, and that's so now I know what's setting it off. And so I just got to avoid alcohol, because most of it's made out of grains, and it's got all evil crap in it that exacerbates it, and it's just evil. It just blows me up. And then combine that with other things like messing with my hormone levels and that not being consistent, and then you got a big problem.
Right. Budweiser is rice.
Yeah. Hey, that'd be good. They got rice beer. Instead of hops and grains and things, they use rice. Well, I suppose that's what rice wine. But,
sake, right? That's Japanese sake.
Yeah.
Man, that's strong. I've tried some sake. It's hot. I don't like it. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've had hot sake and cold sake, and I used to have a Japanese friend, and we used to go out trolling the what do they call them again? The karaoke bars.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's so funny, man. There's just up there drunk and singing and like all the old time rock and roll songs and that. I used to get drunk on sake and hot sake and cold sake, and eat snacks and raw fish and all sorts of things. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's man.
And walk down the street singing and staggering and carrying on. It's funny. Yeah, I used to do it up in King's Cross, in Sydney in King's Cross. King's Cross is pretty famous, but
is it?
It's one of the well, I mean, it's where they have the I think it's the second biggest gay Mardi Gras in the world. They're so proud of that, you know what I mean? But anyway, we won't get onto that. Yeah. So I don't know. Or when you're taking those certain things with colitis and that, you've got to be careful with what exacerbates it. And if anybody's out there that's got Crohn's or colitis or anything like that, then be careful about when you take certain things. Like if you take certain herbs and supplements, find out if they mess with your hormone levels, and if they do, and you start taking them, take a sensible amount. Don't take what's recommended or even lower than what's recommended, but take it consistently. Don't start something and then just start and stop and start and stop. Has to be consistently, otherwise you'll drop your hormone levels up and down, and then you'll have a bad attack.
Oh yeah, you can't mess with that.
And colitis can kill you, by the way. Yeah, so it's dangerous.
Yeah, colitis. Yeah. Don't want to mess with colitis. If you've got it, you better figure out what's causing the problem real quick, or else it can only get worse. You don't want that.
No.
Okay, look at
I always get it better though. It always gets better. It all through my life, it's got bad, real bad, and then I get it better again, and it gets bad, and I get it better. It goes, it's just goes through cycles like that, and I always bounce back. I mean, but one time I might not, but if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
So what?
Oh, hey, we got a request. I'm sure you'll recognize this.
Yeah. I like this song.
We'll have this play as we talk. So, yeah. Let's see. Herbs for kidneys. Yes, I do have some recommendations. And do I have any debates coming up? No, I turned them down because my schedule is really bad in the afternoon. Really bad. Like I can go live up until about 5 p.m. and then after midnight. So my normal schedule, they debate usually around 8 p.m. my time every day, so I can't do it. There's no possible way. Let's see. Herbs for kidneys. Yeah, I'll type them in real quick for you. Mm-hmm.
He was 6'4" and full of muscles. I said, "Do you speak my language?" He just smiled and handed me a Vegemite sandwich. And then I vomited when I ate it because it tasted like crap. It tasted like you spreading fresh cat crap across your toast. I mean, I must admit, for people that have never eaten Vegemite before, it's pretty bad. Pretty crook. Have you ever had it, Matt?
No.
Oh yeah, no, you wouldn't like it, I can promise you.
I heard it's super salty.
Yeah, it's basically, you can let it sit in the cupboard in 45-degree heat for 10 years and it'll still be all right.
Oh
and I'll tell you how much. I know it might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's not far off, you know what I mean? It's pretty. I've had Vegemite sitting in Sydney, and we have hot summers there where it's just hot nights and everything. Just sits in the cupboard for years and it's fine, Yeah, so it's got a lot of salt in it, you could say. Yeah.
Wow. I don't think, anything that can last in your cupboard for years, don't eat it. Sorry. That's the last day survival food.
Well, I don't know, call it food, black tar with some vitamin B scattered in it. No, that's about it.
Yeah.
Black salty tar with a little bit of vitamin, but tiny little bit of vitamin B scattered in it.
What are we going to talk about tonight, though? Let's see. So far, we've just kind of been throwing random stuff out from the audience. We could throw in some, I don't know.
Young Earth creation.
Right. I did tell everybody that I will be on the with Matt Powell and Pastor Anderson coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
So.
That's good. That'll be good to see. I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah, he's making it into a movie, everybody. So I'm going to be in some new movie on Young Earth creation soon. So
Great.
get ready.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. It's pretty good though. It'll be interesting. But I know you'll do well. You always do.
It'll be
It's
fun.
pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good. I like somebody sitting across from me just throwing out questions. Being put on the spot. More fun that way. It seems more real.
Yeah.
Anybody can make a video, but
Yeah, I suppose if your memory works really well like yours does, then it's all right. Not like my memory. Yeah, they'd ask me, and I go, "Oh, hang on, have you got 10 minutes while I go and research this and check it all out and Google things and read bloody citations, and I'll get back to you."
Oh man. Well, those brain herbs will be coming for you soon. You'll be doing good.
Yeah. No, I've got to go. I've got to get on there and order them. I've just been sick and then busy. I mean, I was in the supermarket today, and when you dry retch, it sounds like you're coughing, and with coronavirus, you don't get if you get a runny nose or phlegm with coronavirus, then you've got a cold or a flu with the coronavirus, because coronavirus doesn't give you a runny nose or phlegm. It just gives you a dry, itchy sort of cough. And if I had started dry retching, when I started to get a bit overexerted, because I'm still recovering and I'm still feeling sick, and I still like go, like that, like it's just to sort of get it under control. And if I did that, in this day and age with coronavirus, like it'd be, people calling coppers and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it was really tough. I had to sort of walk around there, and I couldn't, and I felt like I was feeling sick. And I couldn't do it. Any other time I could have, but it would have. It's pretty terrible the way things have got. Sort of funny too.
Yeah. Wow. Dang. Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, the coronavirus is a respiratory assaulter, so you would know if you were having lung problems.
Oh yeah. Like you can hear me talk now. I'm fine. It's not and coronavirus doesn't go away in 1 or 2 days either. But there's different strains out there. That's the scary thing. And we were talking to one guy that claimed that there's 2 strains, and one strain is 70% more virulent than the other. So you hear about, you don't know the more virulent one. I don't know. So you don't know what proportions and where it is, and we haven't got immunity to it yet. So I mean, it's not something. I mean, I was watching. If anybody wants to see a good video, The Tipping Point with Liz Wheeler, and 10 facts about coronavirus that you probably need to know, or you'd want to know, or whatever. Something. It's just 10 facts about coronavirus. It'll be within the past few days or something that she made that video. So, or something. I may be a bit older. I don't know, but so it's more recent. I'm not sure, but it's a good video and gives you some good advice as well. And have you told people about the nettle root today? Or everybody here knows about the nettle root, right, Matt?
Oh, they might. No, I didn't bring it up today, but I figured we'd get into that
later.
Yeah.
Okay. Another time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we could jump into that, because I know that the coronavirus is going to come up when more people join the labs. Let's jump into some questions. What about theology questions or physiological? We can answer anything on here, man. So yeah, theological, philosophy, it doesn't really matter. I'll answer anything for sure. What about Erica claiming that radiometric dating is used to find oil? Okay. Do you want to go first or me? Go ahead. No, you go first.
No, you go ahead, man. No, I don't know. I've not really looked into it, but it's just hilarious. It's just such a funny title, you know what I mean? Radiometric dating to find oil. you go.
Okay.
I just know it's absolute rubbish. If I looked at it and read their citations, and so I know what I'm going to find. Oh, we think this might happen, and this could be the way it is. We're not really sure, but the evolutionists don't see all that. They just say this is a 100% fact, absolutely 100% certain. We know this, and we've got it all worked out. That's what evolutionists see. They don't see what's actually written there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
a lot of the time.
to say that geologists are like pulling out their evolutionary textbook to discover oil is just absurd. First of all, she's 100% wrong. I'll just say that right now. Oil finds are next to what are called salt domes. Geologists look for these. That's it. That's what they look for. Salt domes or mounds are basically columns of salt that have intruded upwards into overlaying sediments. That's why oil is always found next to them, because salt domes make up excellent traps for hydrocarbons. They're always right next to them. That's why when you're standing on a beach and you're looking out over the ocean and you see all those oil wells out there, what you're looking at are they're looking for oil, because what they found out there were salt domes. So what they're looking for is salt. They're not using evolutionary geology. Evolution has nothing to do with where salt domes are. They're looking near oceans, because that's where the salt collects. It collects in bays. So if anything, they're using the exact opposite of the evolutionary time models, and they're basically going to use currents. They're going to be using oceanography, not evolution. Anyway, I can get more into that if you want, but salt domes make, because they're excellent traps for these hydrocarbons, you'll always find salt domes next to oil. That's what oil companies are spending all of their money to look for. It's so successful that when they find a salt dome, they drop hundreds of millions of dollars to explore the area. They're not buying evolutionary geological columns to figure out where oil's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, the evolutionary model. You should ask Erica next time. Say, what evolutionary model are they using? You know which one they actually do use? It's called magmatic model, because it looks for magma flows, or it's a viscous oil, right? So that's why it flows like magma does. Or how do they find salt domes? Again, ocean currents. Nothing to do at all with the evolutionary model whatsoever. Seawater flows into basins and gets trapped, and it gets restricted, and salt builds up. It's that simple. It's that easy. It's no mystery where they're going to find oil. When they're looking in the middle of Texas, yeah, sure, they're going to be like stumbling upon it because they're drilling down to like look for oil, but they're not using anything as far as evolutionary geology books to figure out where oil is. She pulled that out of the air. She pulled that right out of her ass.
Do they have a theory on why the salt domes form, and how much pressure is that oil under?
The oil is under a lot of pressure. The theory for where they are is based on salt accumulation and salinization. So what they think, anyway, because they don't really know, right? They're still thinking. They think that salt is building up in our oceans, and it's coming in from the sides, meaning, remember, water's a solvent. Where does it pull mineral from? The mountains. So what it's doing is it's pulling out all these salts from the rocks and the mountains, and it's going into the ocean, and it's not going out to the deep ocean. It's staying near the shores because it's being picked up by the current and pushed in back onto land. So salt is always accumulating somewhere, and what happens is usually it flows down, and then you get, salt flats, for example. That's runoff. And so they looked in bays, and they figured out bays are where the collection is usually of most of the oil. So they go, okay, well, if we can find them in bays, we know exactly where to look. And the pressure that you mentioned is, what is it? I can try to think of the actual pressure, but it's under a lot of pressure. That's why it erupts. You ever notice that in movies when they dig down and they strike oil, it shoots out of the ground and sprays everywhere? That's why. It's because they've realized that oil's under tremendous amounts of pressure and it's ready to burst out. Matter of fact, that pressure is another proof that the Earth is young, because they've actually found that the pressure that it's under won't last even 10,000 years. So.
Yes. Yeah, even 10,000 years. That's funny. So the oil is, and it's all still down there. It hasn't all bursted forth and created this like worldwide catastrophe that's going to wipe out all life in the oceans and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, I don't know how much there is, but I can imagine if it all burst forth and all went into the oceans at once, it'd do a lot of damage. But what I was going to say was, how much. What are the oil? Like I honestly believe, because I heard that they can turn a leg of lamb now into some crude oil in no time at all, and they also found that some bacteria in clamshells can produce crude oil.
They can do it in 30 minutes.
Wow. I did not know that.
And I found it, by the way. Oil is under 27,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, PSI.
Whoa. Can you think your car tire is like 40 PSI? And if that exploded in your face, it could do you a lot of damage.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine 27,000 PSI car tire exploding in your face? It'd go off like a bomb. It'd just shred your whole body, would disintegrate.
Right.
That's just to give people an idea how much pressure it is. Literally, it'd disintegrate you like about 100 hand grenades.
Right. Oh man.
Yeah. So all going off at once. 100 high explosive hand grenades all going off at once. I mean, you can imagine 27,000 PSI. It's just insane. It's insane. That's crazy pressure.
That's a crazy amount to even think of right there. That's unbelievable amount of power.
And you can get down really deep, whether it's under, I heard 300,000 PSI. The deeper you go, because it's got more weight pushing down on it, so it's under more pressure. And I don't know if that's true or not, but 300,000 PSI, if that's true, that's just mind blowing.
Yeah, I got that in my flood book.
Oh, is that right? It is 300,000 PSI.
Yeah.
Or close to that, somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 anyway. So it's a lot. That's the best way to put it. Don't have to get the exact one, I suppose. But that's amazing, man. When you got that sort of pressure down there, and then you've got water down there, right? You got water down in this 300,000 PSI, right? So if you've got water down there in this 300,000 PSI, and then they say, you know, how do they say that water gets replaced, Matt? They say the water seeps down, right?
Right.
And it gets filtered as it goes down, and then it comes back up again, and you know, it's all. Well, have you ever, if you want to test their to see if their hypothesis is real, go and get a car tire that's 40 psi, stick a matchstick on the valve and open the valve and try to put water in the car tire while the air's rushing out of the 40 psi tire.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, you're not going to get it in there. So yeah, it's so it's not going to replenish itself. It's not going to seep back down and get back down into that 300,000 psi. I don't know. Can you think of a process that would get it down past that, Matt?
No, not really. I mean, there's
so that means that water that's coming up is come up forever, so it can never go back down again. So it's basically, and the oceans, don't they say the ocean levels are rising slightly?
Yeah,
think about it.
Yep, constantly rising.
But we got probably hundreds of billions of liters of water coming, or hundreds of millions, or whatever it would be, billions probably coming out of vents all over the world, deep sea vents. And also all around the coast of Mexico, they know that fresh water seeps up through constantly seeps up through the ground. And they hypothesize that sharks lay down on the ground and sleep there because the fresh water coming up kills mites. And that's coming up over the entire coast of Mexico. So you can imagine just in that one area how much fresh water is coming up, you know, and that's fresh water, by the way, coming up. And Ken Hovind says this, that they had they try to drill, like they'll drill down looking for oil, what they think is oil, and they'll hit a high pressure fresh water pockets, you know, instead of oil, which would be really depressing for them, I suppose. Poor bastards. Spend all that money and then get a whole lot of beautiful spring water. I suppose they could sell really expensive spring water and bottled water.
Yeah, I know.
But the point is that there's all this water down there and it can't be replaced. Okay, so it's like, and it's fresh. So once it comes up and then it mixes, and the other salt water, say, mixes down in the hole, then that's no longer a part of the water under the ground anymore. And there's a lot of fresh water, and there's a lot coming up. Ocean levels are rising. So is it the glaciers melting, or is it, you know, something that we can't, because we're never going to find something that we can pump the water back down, you know, like I don't know, you know, where it's 300,000 psi, it's probably down like, you know, 200 kilometers or something stupid like that. So I mean, the deepest we've ever drilled is 11 kilometers, I think it is, or something like that, 11 miles, I can't remember, in Russia.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And what is down there, it's just more water, and most of it's locked up in rocks called ringwoodite, because the pressure is so high that the water isn't even flowing around anymore. It's just crushed itself directly into the rock, Pretty crazy.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more questions for you. This one was Speed of Sound and Gravity wants to have a discussion with Daniel here about strict materialism. And Daniel was saying, I was pointing out every time he contradicts his worldview, he got fired up from it. What do you think about that? Yeah, what would you think about?
Sorry, I missed that.
Speed of Sound and
Gravity. Speed of Gravity, there it is. I wants to have a discussion with me on the strict materialism. I was pointing out every time he contradicted his worldview. I guess he got him fired. I guess it got him fired. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, he wants a discussion with me. I don't know. I mean, I suppose, yeah, go and have a discussion with him. You think he can handle it?
Yeah, materialism's already been falsified by quantum mechanics, so you have an easy win on your hands. Materialism is dead. We already know that life doesn't really matter when it comes to material possessions because it's vague. It doesn't make any sense. We give money value because we say it does. Money is worthless unless it's required by other people. If the economy collapsed, you would be wiping your butt with dollar bills because they're worthless if they're not good for money. If you can't buy something with them, money's worthless. So that's the materialistic world, right? Saying that we need certain things. No. What we need and what we want are always completely different. Humans have lived without wants for a long time. It's about what we need that matters. Materialism's dead.
Yeah, I suppose that's a bit like when God gave. I tell you what, God, all the Israelites, they complained because they were eating like manna, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 40 years. I mean, like many years, and then you say you would complain, but I believe you, Matt. When you say you wouldn't complain, I believe it. I believe you could eat manna for 40 years straight and just be completely happy and never complain. But I would be there. I would be there among the whingers. I'd be saying, well, if God could give us manna, He could make like a roast beef dinner for us, and he'd be like straight into hell. You're dead.
You'd be one of those guys chasing the birds around, huh? What were they?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be like, let us eat pheasant. We want pheasant.
Yeah, I'd be whinging, I reckon. I don't know. I hope not, but maybe not. I don't know. You don't know unless you're there. But you know what? I'd hate to have to find out. If God came back and said, I can take you back there and you can find out, and then no, thank you.
Right.
I'd rather stay here where I know exactly what, Yeah. My friend said, I'd love to go back to those times and whatever. I said, mate, if you just stick your foot outside your front door on the Sabbath, you would stone to death. So, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't have a fire. You couldn't cook anything. You couldn't, it's funny. Like, no, you wouldn't like going back then.
Yeah, it'd be brutal, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, it was there to teach the reason why God gave them the 615 laws is because He wanted to teach them, that man, you could never follow those laws. That only God could follow those laws. That how inadequate we are, and that was the whole point of it, really, in my mind. Yeah. People say, why did He do that? Just to say, well, okay, here's all my laws that I live by, and I'm going to give them to you, and we'll see if you can live by them. Well, we can't barely live by just a few, like probably 10 laws, and I guarantee you most people would break 9 of them every single day.
I know, right? Yeah, brutal laws too, man. Hard to follow. I mean, we break them every day because we can't even wear mixed clothing, clothing with mixed fabrics.
Yeah, that's right. Like, you could all sorts of stuff, but the laws were there for a good reason too. I mean, there was cleanliness laws, and there was all this sort of stuff. Like, they say, one thing it says, and this is one thing I love about the Bible, and I think it's a beautiful thing. It says to wash. There was doctors back in. Anyway, do you want to ask some questions before I get into a long diatribe, or do you want to hear about this? I think you were getting into questions, so if I get into a long diatribe, we might miss out on some.
No, go ahead, because it's almost 3:30 here, so we got to close soon. So you go ahead, and then we'll get into some questions.
Okay. Those doctors back then started washing their hands. They wouldn't wash their hands. They'd go from an operation with blood all over their hands to a woman that was giving birth, and then go from get her blood and all the blood mixed up, and then just keep going from one person to the next. And they had this massive death rate, like 89%. And I'm just making up. I don't know exactly what the death rates were, but it was close to this sort of thing. It was very, very high. 89% of women were dying from giving birth. And then they went, okay, so they started washing their hands in a bowl of water. Still water, and then the death rate, and this is, I'll just cut it a little long story short, and they just washing their hands in a bowl of still water, and then the death rate went down by, say, 10 or 15 or 20 points, percent, and so they were down to, say, 60 or 70% or whatever it was, death rate. And then to cut an even long story even shorter, they just started washing their hands under running water, right, with soap. But the running water part, then they washed it in still water with soap, didn't work as well as when they went. And then as soon as they started washing it under running water with soap, well, the death rate went down to, like, I think 3 or 5 or 7%. So it went down from like 80 or 90% down to like 7% or 3% or something, like just from a simple thing. And the point of this being is that in the Bible it says to wash under running water, and cleanse yourself under running water. Because what does running water do? It carries away germs. And it also says in the Bible that to eat your flesh, which I'll just meat, to eat your meat with bitter herbs. And there was an old woman, and she'd never had any. This is a long time ago, and all of her life she'd never had any pharmaceutical, chemical wormers to get rid of parasites. Not once in all of her life since she'd been a kid, and they wanted to test her to see, and they tested her, and she didn't have any parasites in her. And then they found out why, and that's because that every single time she ate meat, every single time she ate bitter herbs with the meat, or different types, not the same type of herb every time, but just different types, and just a little bit of bitter herbs, not much. You don't have to eat like great bushels of it, but just a little bit, and she just was completely parasite free. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that's the Bible was telling them to do that, thousands of years earlier. And if they had have been Bible believers, then all those women wouldn't have died.
Oh yeah, well, think about this too real quick. The Bible specifically says, where there is blood, there is life. George Washington was holding on to his Bible when he died while he was bloodletting. While they were letting blood out of his body.
That's bad.
Bleaching, right? I know.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Amazing that he was actually holding the Bible while that happened, though, right? One makes you wonder how much he read it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, I suppose he didn't have time. I suppose he just read the important stuff, the gospel and whatever, and just pretty much skipped everything else because he was so busy. But there were scholars out there, and they could have gone to him and said, this is what this says, or told those doctors in those days, or they probably did try to tell them, and they just didn't listen, because they didn't know about germs and stuff like that. So
yeah,
they just thought that that's just ridiculous. That's just yeah,
totally.
But yeah, I don't know. There's also, it says that the mustard seed is the smallest seed that grows into a tree. And if you go around the world, you won't find any smaller seed that grows into a tree. You'll find smaller seeds, but they grow into herbs and, like flowers and things like that. So they grow into herbs, not trees. So it is the smallest seed that grows into a tree. The mustard seed. It's scientifically accurate and factual.
Yeah, that's why I like my What Are the Odds game.
And goat herders work that out, by the way, from, they just happen to know. I mean, there's a big planet, man. And there's a lot of biodiversity on this planet. And for them to get that right, I mean, along with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other so-called coincidences, then it's pretty hard to ignore.
Yeah, ignore is the best word for it, because you have to.
Yeah. So what are they saying then?
All right, just a couple more questions. How does evolution side explain the male and female? I mean, did it happen gradually somehow? And all of these things needed to be able to give birth in animals and man, or do they address this? ? Well, what they said is that asexual reproduction produce sexual reproduction by brother and sister at one time. Now, how all life happened to do this at the same time is beyond anybody's imagination. But remember, to them, it's a tree of life. So all that had to happen was that the first eukaryotic organisms of bacteria needed to produce a male and female. And then from then on, all those descendants also produced male and female. So all they needed was an original pair to come from itself for it to happen. And that's their story. Yeah.
Oh, and I just had to throw this in there. Without ERVs, they can't have babies. So, how long ago was it that ERVs were supposed to have infected the human genome, Matt?
I would say in the human evolution tree, about 1 to 6. No, 6 to 10 million years ago.
No way. So that means that mammals weren't having babies for like like tens of millions of years before that, right?
Yeah.
Because ERVs are responsible for what is that again? Because I always tell people, but when you say it, I'll try to memorize it.
Yeah, without ERVs, there's no development of the placenta. So especially the third stage. So second and third stage, like the last, the most important part.
So no babies. So no babies for millions and millions of years, and somehow they must have just cloned and divided like bacteria.
Yeah, they were into cloning back then. That was what they did. We know it now.
People just clone. They just split apart.
Yeah.
And then like yeah, I'm sure.
I know,
anyway.
right? All right, next one. Let's talk about Matt Monarch, David Wolf, and Durian Rider. Oh, no, not on this one. Join us on the next time, and we'll go over these guys. Matter of fact, I'll give people homework assignments. They can look up these people. Matt Monarch is recently lost his mind, and he kind of runs around making crazy noises now. And I don't know what happened to him. He basically almost killed himself, and then he just turned into a lunatic. David Wolf is a shady human being, so that's not a very fun one. But Durian Rider's funny. He's from Australia. That dude is crazy. He just says anything that comes to his mind. He's just a mad talker. He learned how to get very popular by saying anything. Like, what can I say that's the most controversial thing that I can say? I'm gonna say
yeah.
That. And so
is he that guy that said Jesus was gay and all that stuff?
Yeah, he said gay is a choice.
Is that him?
Yeah, he said gay is a choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What's my view on psychedelic plants like ayahuasca and others? Do you think God created them to help us, or do you think they're a trap? Ooh.
It depends. If you're using it for the right reasons, that some psychedelic plants can be really, really good for your body. Some of them.
I would say I don't know, because I've never done any of them. So I'm probably the last person you want to ask on that one.
Yeah, like mushrooms and things. Yeah, I've heard, and my friend has read about it, and he was telling me he's read about it, and he said that what he read said that they have, if you take them not in, like some people take 20 and 30 and 40 of them at a time just to get totally, melt their minds off out of their head. But if you take it in just sensible amounts, then there's some real positive effects that it has on your body. It's good for you. So anything in moderation, not anything, but you know what I mean, like things like that in moderation, probably are good for you, but most places they're illegal, so you can't take them. And yeah.
Exactly.
I recommend checking your local laws before you go and collect magic mushrooms.
That's true. All right, guys. Well, I got to close it up for tonight, but me and Jason will do this again tomorrow sometime.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. See you, mate.
All right, man. Have a good night, everybody.
God bless. Have a good day. See you later. See you, everybody.